What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Azariah Podcast. I'm Pedro. This show is about real people and their stories, the kind that shake you up and change you. We talk to people from all walks of life to hear their journeys, challenges, and what drives them. Coming to you from the Wolf Media Studio. Today, we're sitting down with Wiebe. For over 10 years, Linda cared for her husband Herb as he battled Alzheimer's disease and Lewy body dementia. Her story is about love, resilience, and what it means to hold on while learning to let go. Linda, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for the invite.
You're very welcome. And, thank you for coming out, sitting down with me and having this conversation. I'm very much looking forward to hear your story.
Thank you so much.
Let's start by growing up, your family and what shaped you.
I grew up in Ontario, southern Ontario, and in a church-going family, and I guess that shaped everything because my parents were very protective, and I started going to youth group in a Mennonite church and got to know friends there, and they introduced me to Christ at that time.
And how did you and Herb meet?
The first time I saw him, it was love at first sight. We was at a basketball game, and I saw him, and I said to my girlfriend, I'm going to marry him someday. And she's like, what are you talking about? But, it just worked out that we had mutual friends, and so I just made sure I was wherever he was.
Okay. And you met him in Ontario as well?
Yes. His family had moved there from Manitoba, and so he didn't know that many people. So he was hanging out with his brother and his brother's friends, who happened to be my best friend's brother. So That's kind of how we got to know each other that way.
That simplifies things a little bit.
It did.
Okay. When would that have been?
Pardon me?
When would that have been?
That would have been, I would have been 18 and he would have been 20.
Okay.
And 9 months later we got married.
Okay. That went fast.
Yes,
That's
it did.
Good.
And people were just like, what are you guys doing? But we knew.
When you know, right?
Yeah, and even during that time, he had come to Manitoba to go to Winkler Bible Institute.
Okay.
And so a lot of our dating was through letters.
So it was before cell phone.
Before cell phones and texting and, yeah. So I still have all our love letters.
What?
Yeah, I've kept them all.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. How long did that go on for?
Well, we didn't date very long. We got married so we were married 45 years when he had to go into a home.
So what was life like? Who was Herb before all of this?
He was very shy. He was a lot of fun. He was committed and loyal. He was like everybody's best friend. He cared about people. He was just, he put people at ease. And I just saw qualities in him that I had prayed for in a husband. And I guess, he just was someone that you just wanted to be around.
Okay. So when you guys first got married, did you guys settle in Southern Ontario?
We settled in Southern Ontario till both of our sons were born.
Okay.
So we got married, I was 18, he was 20. Had our first child when I was 20 and second one at 21. And then when our youngest was around a year old, we moved back to Manitoba and built a house and settled there for a little while. And then we found interest rates went crazy during that time, so we ended up having to sell the house and moved it to an old fixer-upper. And during that time, God renewed the call in us to go back into missions. So I was 14 and Herb was 17 when God had called us to be missionaries.
Okay.
And we actually talked about it when we dated to make sure that we were both kind of on the same line. And an interesting thing is, I had asked God for a sign about a husband, and I asked God, I said, if the guy asked me to pray with him on the first date. I'll know he's the one. And Herb asked me to pray with him on our first date before we even pulled out of the driveway, because he wanted to make sure I was a Christian before he dated me. So it was very unusual. He'd never done that before.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So how did it go from there when you felt recalled into mission field? Like, what steps did you guys take? Like, how did it go from there?
We actually contacted MB Missions at the time, talked to our pastor. We had an amazing mentor, and talked to them about it. And then they suggested we go to what was at that time called Bethany Bible Institute. It doesn't exist anymore. It's in Hepburn, Saskatchewan.
Okay.
And while we were there, we did a 3-year internship at the Wall-Time MB Church. And also, my husband was very involved in prison ministries, and we just kind of got our bearing there. So that was really special. And then from there, we went on to California. We went to Fresno, California, and spent, at that time, MB Missions had put together a missionary program that was a 4-month intensive training in California, and it was amazing preparation. And then from there we went to Costa Rica for a year of language school, and then went to where we were, where the outcome was all along was Bogota, Colombia, and spent 4.5 years there during all the terrible years of Pablo Escobar and bombs going off. And it was a real time of testing.
I imagine.
And so that's kind of where we ended up during that time.
What led you to the Latin world, like Latin America, for missionary?
Both of us had felt that pull. And I remember when God called me to be a missionary, he just showed me standing on some land and being surrounded by mountains. And Bogota is surrounded by mountains.
Oh, yeah.
So
did you know that already ahead of time?
No, I didn't. No.
Okay, so when you got there, that's when it was a confirmation?
Yeah, even before, I think, once we did the research. Because we also wanted, we were very mindful of where our kids would go to school. And we wanted them to get a good education and to live with us, not be sent away.
And they were at school age when you guys were on your mission journey?
Yeah. They were in a private school in Bogota.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they would have learned Spanish and English?
Yes. They actually studied in Spanish. They had one English class.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess English you learn at home, and
you
add Spanish to it.
Yeah.
It's just a bonus.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, if you don't mind, like, what was it like during the Pablo Escobar years in Colombia?
It was terrifying.
We know what he's seen on TV, the TV shows about him. Some of it's glorified.
No, it was as bad as it was. We watched, my sons were in school at the time, and the buses would have to take, sorry, I don't know where this cough is coming from. The buses would have to take different routes all the time because there was a lot of kidnapping. Bombs that went off, they were close enough that they shook our places of where we lived. Windows broke. Where we went to get our mail, that area was bombed. So a lot of people died just being at the wrong place at the wrong time. A lot of missionaries were pulled out of the country, and we were given the option, but we decided to stay. And I'm glad we did. God did a real revival during that time as well, because the uncertainty of life. So our ministry was very special. God did some amazing things during that time.
What was the ministry like? Was it more like a person-to-person, or was it having church
Herb and
gatherings?
I were in an established church.
Okay.
When we as missionaries, there was a group of us that went, and initially we were supposed to be part of a church plant. But when we got there, the national church and the local church said, you can't put all these people to work in a new plant. We need someone helping us. So Herb and I were selected to work with the local church, and our role was leadership training, mentorship, and basically work our way out of a job, train people to do things. And it was the most phenomenal experiences. There was a lot of spiritual warfare that happened at the time. And God just really used us and had prepared us actually when we were back in Canada on furlough for this. We came back with all this material to read and just saw how God was preparing us for what we were coming back to. And actually one of the guys in our youth group is Cesar Garcia. He is now in charge of the World Mennonite Conference. And
wow.
So we've been able to meet up with him over the years and just talk about, what God did. And our church at Columbia became a real big sending church. Got missionaries in different parts of the world and people that have gone on to do amazing things. So to be a part of that was just, it gives me goosebumps now because I just feel like we were just so blessed because we sat in church and pointed out to God all these educated people that would do a better job at missions than us, and God just said, but they're not willing. And so God equipped us for what we needed at the time, which was, again, something that really strengthened our faith, right?
Wow. So it was more of a Mennonite organization, like from
Yes,
Mennonite
it was.
Conference?
Yes, the Mennonite Brethren. But then later on, I went out in missions again with Global Outreach. And then we worked with Mexican Mission Ministries. And we were working out of the FAR, which is PHARR office in right on the border with Mexico.
FAR, Texas?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we got to do that and then travel through North America fundraising. So we got to experience seeing a huge part of the U.S. And yeah, we had an amazing life, like a life of adventure. It was, but he was up for that. Like he was not a person attached to staying in one spot. So in our marriage, we moved 24 times.
Wow. That's amazing.
He didn't let me get too settled. One day I said to him, I'd like to get into a bit of a rut, never knowing what was coming.
Yeah. Well, I guess in a way that also keeps you, as people, especially I feel like in North America, we're very used to accumulating a bunch of things.
Yes.
Like I call it crap, but it's because so much stuff we don't need.
Right.
So I guess you really get to learn, live, just the minimal.
Yeah, we
things
sold
that you
everything.
need.
3 times we sold everything, literally, and just started all over again. And it's amazing how within a year, you'd never know that we started with nothing. Like I became a great garage sailor and just thrift store shopping and became really good at it.
Nice. That's awesome. So what you guys did, to me, it sounds very much like disciple making.
Yes.
Like you equip people. I feel like very often mission work is they go somewhere preaching and they go away and they leave. And maybe not too often, but it happens that the people are left for themselves, and that's we're called for disciple making. That's what it sounds more like, right? Like,
yeah, it was amazing because you get to see the fruits of your labor in a lot of ways. And over the years with Facebook, a lot of the kids that were in our youth group, like they're grandparents now, and so staying in touch with them all these years and seeing what God is doing. And the church in Columbia just had a big anniversary right now. I can't even remember how many years it was, but they had a whole week of celebration and just showing how, like, what God has all done through the church. Like I said, being a sending church. A lot of times you go to another country and you don't see them, but they're sending missionaries as well. And that was their goal, to always be able to do that. So that was a very healthy church.
You go back to Colombia on a regular basis, or when?
No, I only got to go back once. I took a team from, at that time, Winkler Bible Institute, and went back and got to spend time, surprise people by just showing up at their door. The person that was supposed to go to Colombia at the last minute couldn't go, so I didn't have a lot of time to contact people to tell them I was coming. So I actually just would ring people's doorbells, and that was so much fun.
Yeah.
And then I got to spend time in the church again, and it was really special.
You got to see what it was, what fruit came out of it.
Yes.
After you guys left. That's amazing. Let's dive into the diagnosis. When did you first notice that something happened or something was wrong?
12 years ago, I started noticing changes in his behavior, and also that he was forgetting things. But it was more, a lot of it was like, it was the behavior that kind of threw me off, because he was just, like it was just, his character changed. And it threw me off because I didn't know what was happening. And there was a family crisis that had happened, so I kept saying, well, it must be the family crisis that is like affecting him. You know, you make excuses in the beginning. And, but then he started having like pains in his head. And so we started going for MRIs and CT scans and to see, you know, to check what was happening, and they would never see, like, what they were looking for, they didn't find. So they were looking for a tumor or something that would be pressing on the brain, and they weren't at that time looking for anything else but that. So it was just a long journey then, because I saw that it was like getting worse. And so kept going back to the doctor, and they would do these tests and say, yes, he's cognitively impaired, but he can still work and he can still do things. So, and I said, well, what does this mean? And they said, well, it looks like, you know, probably Alzheimer's, but we can't, as long as he can do these things, we can't like give it a name. So that was part of the frustration, because until you have a diagnosis, you don't have any resources available to you.
Right.
So as the disease progressed, and there were delays, like to get in to see a neurologist, and he steadily was getting worse. So finally, after 3 attempts to get a PET scan, they finally did a PET scan, and then we went back to the doctor, and so now they could officially say, even though they always knew that it was probably Alzheimer's, now they could say, okay, now for sure it's Alzheimer's, but he also has Lewy body dementia. And the Lewy body dementia gave us like an understanding of all the behavioral stuff that was happening and changing. So for us, it was like, when we got the diagnosis finally, then it was a relief on one hand, because we now had an answer, and now there would be resources available to us, but it's also a death sentence because there's no cure. And so you know that, you know, like if you have cancer or something else, you know that there's a 50% chance or 80% chance that you're going to be healed. And with this, there's none. So there were a lot of tears as well in the beginning. And Lewy body, the way it's different from Alzheimer's is there's a lot of like delusions, paranoia, vivid dreams, hallucinations, and wandering. So it's not just about, you know, with Alzheimer's, losing your memory, losing the ability to remember how to do things. It's you know, just the behavioral stuff kind of overshadowed all the other stuff. So that was the hard part. But there was so much uncertainty during that whole time. There was embarrassment. I was trying to cover up a lot of his behavior. So once we had the diagnosis, it gave us a way to be able to tell people. And it took a long time to, like we told our friends and family very quickly. I mean, they all knew something was going on because Herb had changed so much. There was still the old Herb there, but something that would say happen once a week now started happening like on a more regular basis. And the embarrassment was that he was just like he had no filter after a while. So he would approach people and make people uncomfortable because he was so friendly, but they didn't know him, but he thought he knew them.
Okay.
So that's where, you know, in public it became quite difficult to take him places. And often I would be the one that be yelled at by people because they thought I was the one doing something wrong because I was trying to you know, bring him with me to try to diffuse the situation. And so that was a hard part too, being misunderstood so much by other people. And I mean, I wasn't going to walk around with a big sign saying my husband has this, like,
Right.
you know, you become very protective. And yeah, so yeah, it changes your life in every way.
Yeah. So how did that change your life? Like exactly what you said. Like, how do you take approaches like how you had to do everyday life, so to say?
It affected like us emotionally, mentally, financially, relationships, intimacy, trying to figure out how to adjust because he needed reminders. Like I had a whiteboard in the house and I would write on there like brush your teeth, do this, and if he could see that then he would go do it. But eventually it got to the point that the whiteboard didn't help. He didn't know what that meant. So after I retired him in 2000, January 1st of 2000, because even though he kept working after that diagnosis for a while, it just became too much. Like he'd lose his phone, leave his tools everywhere, and then it got to the point where he couldn't find his way home. So then I retired him, and so at that point he was still home, and I got different agencies involved, home care, mental health, the Alzheimer Society, the geriatric psychiatrist, the doctor, the neurologist. And during that time, with the visits from home care and mental health, they started to notice that his reaction times and everything were off, and he wasn't taking his pills when he was supposed to when he was home alone. And so then his license was taken away, and then we were told like he couldn't be left alone anymore. So I set up some family managed care. That is something that Manitoba has for people. It's a lot of work to get it set up, but what it did is it allowed me to give Herb a life that I wanted him to have. For example, they could take him in the truck and go all over the place with him. It was during COVID. He would have gone stir crazy in the house. He was a people person. Okay. They could take him to pick up the groceries from the superstore or whatever, and they could take him through drive-thrus. They could take him golfing. They could do all these activities with him. So I would tease him and say, you know, you're retired and now you have a chef and a chauffeur and, you know, all this. So, you know, talked it up like this was a good thing. And so I had the most amazing staff. I had hired people that, again, it was a God intervention, how I got people to work for us. And it was men. I had one nursing student for a while, but mostly I had really big men like him because Herb was 6'3" and 220 pounds. So he, you know, he needed someone that was going to be able to control him if that needed to happen. And so he got to like do everything possible to live like as much of a normal life. And during that time, he actually, when he was golfing with two of his caregivers, he got a hole-in-one And that was seen by 2 witnesses. So the Carillon did a little write-up on him, and that was really exciting. Nice. And, so I'm glad that I got to allow a lot of that to happen before it got to the point where we couldn't manage him anymore.
What does late-stage dementia actually look like?
Well, there are 7 stages to Alzheimer's. Yeah. And by the time he was stage 4, he went into the home. At that point, we couldn't take care of him anymore. He was, once he got into the home, they could medicate him with medications that were not available to him at home. Mm. And so that was a huge help for us, is that the medications were really needed at that point. We knew after the last doctor's visit before he went into the home that was our only avenue. There was nothing else that, like, I tried so many different things at home to make it easier to keep him home, but I had exhausted like every avenue at that point, and he kept taking off on our caregivers, and he was putting his life at risk and putting my life at risk quite often. And so I became very fearful, and the last 6 months he was home were really scary, and he became aggressive and irrational, of course. We couldn't reason with him, and so I didn't sleep for years because Lewy body's very active at night.
Okay.
So he would try to climb out of windows or do different things. So I had alarms on our doors, sensor lights all over the house, because he would get lost even in the bathroom. And then he would be destructive if he was having a delusion or a paranoid episode or a hallucination. He was reacting to things that weren't real and not there, so he became a little bit destructive in that way. And so because I never knew what was coming, or if he would have a vivid dream at night and be jumping on the bed and reenacting something, well, I spent many nights on the couch just to be able to be safe, but then had a checkup on him all the time. So I hardly slept. It's amazing I made it through that time.
That sounds very challenging. Tell me about the small moments when he was fully there. Like, what were those like?
Oh man, I remember it would have been 2000, might have been 2021 maybe. At Christmas one day we were talking, and we had this amazing conversation that lasted about half an hour. And it was unbelievable. It was like I had my old Herb, and we talked about a lot of serious things. I asked him a lot of questions and wrote everything down. And that was probably the last time that I had like a really good conversation with him. But as things progressed, it was the holding hands. He loved touch, so I'd sit on his lap, or I'd cuddle him, or like he would say little things. And as he deteriorated, sometimes it was once a week that I would hear something like, "Hey, babe," or he would just say something to make me know that he knew who I was. And I lived for those.
Right.
And
those kept you going.
Those kept me going 100% for sure. Yeah.
Okay. You said when you had that talk, was it clear to him what was going on? Like, was he aware of the moment where he wasn't in control?
No, he would. He would tell people he had Alzheimer's, but he never understood the gravity of it, what it meant. Somehow, I don't think that really connected with him at that time. But when home care and mental health would come, or the mental health, and we would talk with him and stuff, then he was very clear. He knew what he wanted. He wanted to be in Rest Haven because he had worked there and he had liked the building, and like he had talked about things like that before. So that really helped, is that we had written everything down. We had everything documented. So as far as humanly possible, I was able to basically comply with his wishes, which meant a lot to me. Yeah.
What was the hardest part of watching him change?
Losing the man he was, my best friend, my confidant. Every time he couldn't do a simple task, and then he would be like watching the frustration and the anger, and that's why he was usually very hostile with me, because somehow it was my fault. See, a child, when you have a child and you watch a child grow, they make, they start walking, and then they start talking, and they're doing all this. And with me, my husband, it was a reverse development, like losing tasks. So when he, by the time he got into rest haven, then, he needed assistance with a lot. And as the disease progressed, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
So he went in there early stage 4. By stage 5, we could still take him places, like take him out of rest haven, and he could still go golfing with friends and people would take him out. But by stage 6, we couldn't manage him. Like, he had his own agenda. So if he had a friend walk in front of him, a friend behind him, he was going the other direction. And then by, if I took him to the park and I couldn't get him back, so eventually I couldn't take him out anymore. And in the car, like, he'd start grabbing at the wheel or trying to get out of the door. So that had to stop. By the last summer, so 2 summers ago, I could only take him downstairs and take him in the outdoor patio, sit on the swing with him, hang out with him. But then by November of 2024, October, November, he couldn't walk anymore, and he became a baby. So he was a baby basically from November till he passed away, May 4th, 2025. And so he was in a Broda chair, and he had a Hoyer lift, and he never ever tried to come out of the bed if he woke up. And yeah, my husband became a baby.
It's impossible to imagine that, like, to having to go through that and watching and experience it, a human regressing, like you explained earlier. He was so full of life.
Yes. And he lost his sense of humor in 2023. And that was probably very sad for all of us, because throughout it all, he still had a sense of humor. Like, he would tease the staff. He was a lot of fun, even because he became so like a little boy, right? Mm-hmm. So he was a bit of a tease and all the stuff a little boy would do. And then once he got to the stage where he was like about a 2-year-old, then he lost his sense of humor. And that was sad to watch, because that was something that he still had, that, it just was a part of his personality, kind of the last part of his personality that left.
As you mentioned earlier, like, you guys did a lot of missions trip and seen, you did your master's work. How did some of that stay with him? Did he how did he feel and experience God during this moment?
When he first moved into Rest Haven, he thought he was there to be a chaplain.
Oh.
So he would go around to people's rooms and pray for them and
wow.
things like that. And he was very involved. Like, he would help take people in wheelchairs to chapel. He even helped maintenance. Like, he was a servant heart. And so that stayed. He would help in the kitchen. He would sweep the floors. He would do whatever. Eventually he got to the point where he was picking up the dirt with just his finger off the floor, because he forgot he could use a broom. He would tease the staff, and they just loved him. One time he had gone and prayed for someone, and the family member said, my dad doesn't want Herb to pray for him anymore. And I said, oh, what happened? And she said, well, he laid hands on my dad and prayed, Lord, take him soon. And the guy was quite upset about that. So, but often we would catch him just sitting and praying with someone. And to me, that was who he was, right? Like and he made sense when he prayed. That was one of the things. Like I know a lot of times people say, people will sing right till the end of their life, right? But Herb prayed for a long time. He might not be able to have a conversation with you, but he tried, he would always try to pray. He'd get distracted sometimes, but, he still, and what I clung to during that whole time is the Lord promises to never leave us or forsake us.
Right.
And when we were in Colombia during that time of the spiritual warfare and everything that happened, Herb had some spiritual experiences where he saw heaven. He spoke with the Lord. He had phenomenal experiences. From that time on, Herb would sit up at night and talk to the Lord. Often.
He would have a different relationship with him then.
Yes. It was so close. And even throughout our whole marriage, he would say, oh, the Lord told me this last night, or the Lord told me that last night. And that was, and we saw like amazing things happen that we knew it was the Lord. It wasn't anything to do with him or me. And from that time on, he just wanted to go to heaven so bad. And he told our boys about it too. And there was a life and death experience that almost happened in Colombia. The Lord almost took him, but it was a test for something that was coming. And so the whole time Herb was sick, he'd always say, well, I get to go to heaven soon. So he was always heaven bound. And even though that was like really hard when my kids heard it when they were young, as the disease progressed, that brought us as a family a lot of comfort, is that he wanted to go to heaven so bad. So
guilt as a companion, what does that mean?
Well, I feel like guilt and grief go hand in hand in a lot of ways. I think the guilt was, in the beginning, when Herb went to the home, I think my guilt was really high and my grief was low, because we could still have conversations and stuff, and I could still take him out, and, but the guilt was that I had to leave him behind, that he wasn't going to be able to do everything. Just in that way. It wasn't irrational. It wasn't rational guilt, but it was there, and it messes with your head a little bit. As he declined, I think the guilt was less and the grief became more. But one of the things about the grief was that as a spouse, you have to make these really, really tough decisions. And we had an awesome marriage. And now all your hopes of retirement, everything is gone. And you are having to put your husband away. But like I was saying before, things got very scary at home. And I mean, he could get up on the roof very quickly.
Wow.
He got access to, he took the doors off our shed. Even though the doors were locked with a big padlock, he got the doors off. So he had access and all kinds of things. He had no fear, so it didn't faze him that he was potentially hurting himself. So putting him in the home was also to keep him safe, and to keep me safe, and other people safe. And so there's this, your emotions are like playing with your head a little bit.
Yeah.
But in the end, you have to make the decisions that's best for them, even if it's painful for you. And even though my doctor said the year that you put him in the home is going to be the worst year of your life, it'll take both of you 9 months to a year to adjust to being apart and the separation. And it definitely took a full year. So that year, he hated me so much. There were times that I would get there and he would just be screaming at me that I had destroyed his life. And this person that you love so intensely and you know loves you is now like so angry at you. And then you, like the one day I had gotten there and I had gotten to know the staff and they're like, "Oh, Herb had a good day. We just finished playing bingo. He's up in his room." And I walked into his room and oh my, like it was ugly. And I went running out of there and then one of the staff went in to try to redirect him. And I went and sat downstairs and I was shaking so bad I could not, I was a wreck. And so staff came and sat with me and also other spouses and just prayed for me, and they wouldn't let me drive home in that condition. So, so then after that kind of, there was just, even though it was like that at home as well, in the home it became, at least now I can run away. When it happened at home, I couldn't leave him. I had to stay and try to protect myself. So those were things I never really talked about until after he passed away, because I wanted so much to just protect him, even because I knew that wasn't him. It was the disease.
What's it like grieving someone who's still there?
It's called ambiguous loss. You lose him in stages. There's no hope. There's no cure. You know the disease is fatal, and they call it the slow goodbye. And I loved on that man. Like, I would sit on his lap as long as I could and cuddle with him and kiss him. I knew he loved the affection. And when he went to the Broda chair and I could no longer sit on his lap, knowing that he was now a baby, the last week of his life, what happened was, it was such a blessing, I guess 2 weeks before actually, someone else needed the bed that he had. So he got a 3/4 bed so I could lay beside him on the bed. And that last week, to be able to do that and hold him was so precious. I can't even tell you. It was so precious. That was really good for me.
It's a goodbye.
Yes. And I was alone with him when he passed away. My son and our friends had just left the room to go. And the last day he was conscious, he stroked my face. I think he knew who I was. And he recognized our son, who he hadn't recognized in 2 years. So, that's a good memory.
How did you cope with this whole emotionally? Like, I think in a way you talked about it, you held on to the memories, the guy you knew he was. But
well,
if you would,
I suffer from PTSD and flashbacks. So because of the hallucinations, paranoia, delusions, vivid dreams, and wandering, as the disease progressed, he got TV memories and reality really mixed up. So emotionally for me, coping was really about survival. I see a therapist because I think that's really important, and I was seeing him while Herb was still alive, because as Herb was declining, I was struggling to adjust to all these changes, because it's like every time you say goodbye to a piece of him, you're grieving, you're mourning. And I was so sleep deprived that I think I was emotionally very fragile in a lot of ways, But everybody kept telling me how strong I was, and I was just like, they had no idea. Like, I don't cry a lot in public, but I cry at night. And so people think I'm so strong, but they don't know the terror and the trauma that I've had to cope with. And, you know, everybody said, you're grieving so much while he's alive, it'll be easier once he passes away, and that's not true. So that's not true.
Your faith, how did it carry you through it?
Without my faith, I don't know what the outcome would be, because I think my faith directed every decision that I made. I couldn't have made the decisions to put him first and to do everything if I wouldn't have had a strong faith, knowing that God was still in control of the whole situation and that he would never leave me. And I just clung. Like, there were so many nights when I was on the couch in the living room listening to worship music, reading the Psalms. And without that, I don't know how I would have kept working during all those years that I was so sleep deprived, because I think it was the worship and the prayer that like allowed me to keep going. I mean, the Psalms, I mean, they understood the cry of my heart, and then at the end they always go back to praising God, right? And so knowing that that all the emotions that I felt were understood, and that there were times in the car that I would drive on my way to work just bawling my eyes out, get to work and have to be a professional, and then getting a call from my caregiver, this happened or that happened, and having to take off home, not knowing what I was walking into. And yeah, without my church family, friends, praying, yeah, I don't know how anybody would do it without having faith. I think it would be that much harder, you know.
Right. What did you hold on to in the hardest moments?
I think that Herb longed for heaven, and that he was heaven bound, and that his suffering was going to be over, and that he had lived life to the full, like all the adventure, all the things he got to do. You know, there were so many ways that he impacted people's lives. He worked at Inner City Youth Live. He had an amazing ministry there. Just the way he cared about people and put himself often in danger to help somebody else. And, you know, he was never one to, like, a lot of people don't even know half the stories about his life. But I know them. And knowing that I'm going to see him again, I mean, my goodness, the hope.
Yeah.
With that hope, right? That's, yeah, it's going to be awesome. Yeah.
It's like the word in Spanish, hasta luego.
Yeah. See you later.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did your faith change through the journey?
I think how it sustained me was through the flashbacks, the PTSD, the panic attacks, all that stuff. I knew that was my body reacting to everything that was happening, and the physical consequences of burnout and everything you're dealing with, but that's just your body. I tried to keep my mind positive. I tried to always look for things to be grateful for, and I think that was a big help to stay grateful for the little things. Like, you know, if he recognized me that day, like, just always looking for that, knowing that the other stuff is just consequences of what you've gone through, but to still in your conscious because the panic attacks and the flashbacks, and a lot of that happened at night. But during the day, tried to stay very, very positive. Just, yeah, I mean, it can't not affect your mental health. I don't know of a single caregiver that isn't struggling, and my goodness, my passion is for caregivers, and I just want to be able to tell people, like, I hear you, I see you, I want to be able to validate your feelings, that what you're feeling is real, and it's okay to have those moments where you get frustrated. Like, there were times where, in the beginning, when I didn't understand what was happening, and he would do something that was just like so dangerous, and where he put me in danger. There was a boating incident that I still have flashbacks about, that I still haven't been able to deal with very well, and a car where he almost got us killed. And there were things that happened that I still have to work through. And but I have hope that I will.
Yeah.
Did
your perspective of God change during that time? Did you see a different side of him?
When I thought of, like, Jesus, like, God gave us his son. Mm-hmm. He watched what his son went through, what Jesus went through, and then to die on the cross. If anybody understands watching a loved one suffer, it's God. Mm-hmm. And so I think I just made me see a side of God that maybe at the time I didn't realize, like, how much he loves us, that he would do that. So I knew he understood what I was feeling with Herb. Watching someone you love suffer. Not that it's the same thing at all, but what I'm saying is he understands when we watch a loved one suffer. I also lost my sister to cancer while Herb was still alive, but he never understood what was happening. And so, I had combined grief, right? And so, yeah, no, my sister, yeah. No, I think my understanding grew, but it also grew the first time I had a baby. So, right. I think life experience just helps you to see things from a different perspective.
Did you find that you had a good support group, or like it was helpful to have support, like human support as well, going through all of this, like friends? Oh my
goodness, yeah, you can't go through this alone. Every time I meet up with, I often have made myself available to meet up with people who's, like, spouses who are just finding out their husbands have Alzheimer's. And first thing I try to do is encourage them to get a support group going, whether it's family or friends, but you have to have someone that you can talk to. And it's best if you could find, like, Alzheimer's support group, or like we created one at Rest Haven for spouses and we've had an amazing, it's been amazing for all the spouses. It's also, I keep telling my story because I want to help other people to understand that it's safe to talk about. Also, when you have access to a mental health worker and home care, and the Alzheimer's Society, when you have those kind of supports and you resource them, it's a huge help, because they've walked this journey with a lot of people, and there's help and advice out there. You have to open yourself up to it, though. I know there's a lot of people that, in the beginning, I understand, like I said before, the embarrassment, some of the things that happened. So some people try to keep it quiet and everything, but that doesn't help you. And so to ask for help and get your friends involved, even respite, like, sorry, sometimes Herb's friends would take him out, so I would have a break. Things like that. Like, you need that. You need that break. So, yeah, I think it's priceless that you find someone that will listen to you, validate your feelings, and not judge you. Because you already are judging yourself so much that you really don't need someone else judging you. And one of the things that has really helped me, if I would say to one of my friends, oh, I wish I would have done more, or maybe I should have done more, they're like, no, Linda, you went above and beyond. You can't say that. And so they shut me down and say, don't even go there. And to have people that will do that for you. And I also needed people to give me permission. Like, when Herb was still alive, I was desperate to see my kids. But I felt guilty leaving him. That's where this guilt comes in. So you're torn now. But your kids want to see you, and your grandkids want to see you. And so, people were, Linda, it's okay. And the staff at Rest Haven, Linda, like, you can call every day. And just to have that. And it's funny that you feel like you need permission, but you really do, because you second guess everything. You begin to doubt your own decision making. So, you have to have someone that's going to, like, stand beside you and help you do that, because Herb was that for me, right? Now I don't have that. Now my oldest son is, like, the one I call about all those decision things.
Okay. So you need a full team on your corner.
Oh my goodness. You really do. And, if you have that. Like, it was interesting because when Herb first got sick, he was adamant about moving and moving and moving and moving. And I kept saying, like, I have a good job. I don't want to leave. And so we ended up talking him out of us moving. And then the first time we saw the neurologist, the first thing he said to us was, don't move. And I was just like, yes. Because he said, you are where people know you. And I had on our Kleefeld Facebook page, I put Herb's little story in there. So if anybody ever saw him, that they would know, like, to contact me, that he had gotten away. Because he often wandered. Even when I was walking beside him, he would take off on me. So that was a huge help. So that's where you need the whole community, right? Yeah. So that was a big, big, big for me.
That's amazing. So what do you do for fun, hobbies?
Oh, well, Herb got me into camping years ago.
Oh.
So now I have a place where I can leave my camper year round. And I love it. And I've built a whole new community there. They all met Herb. So that helps, is that they knew who he was at least. I love to read. I couldn't read for years because Herb would distract me every 2 seconds. So I've started reading again. And I've just started doing some watercolor painting. And I love spending time with people. So, yeah. The tendency is to want to isolate myself. But I really push myself. That's where therapy helps. Because you have accountability. And you learn tools. And that's helped me a lot.
Okay. What are some favorite books that you have read recently?
Oh, I love murder mystery. I love suspense. Of course, I've read a lot of books on Alzheimer's and that. I've read a lot of books on heaven lately.
Okay.
I think that has been something that's helped me a lot.
Like people that have had experiences?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, yeah. And not just any kind of novel. Anything that distracts me. I find I can't get into my head too much. So I have to be able to occupy myself. So that helps.
Right. How did you recharge doing caregiving?
I don't know that I recharged during caregiving. I think work was a big thing because I worked during COVID. So that was a big help, is that I got out of the house every day and was around people and could have normal conversations and be distracted about work, focused on that. So I think at that time, work was kind of my recharge of all things. Who would think that? But
Right.
the minute I got home, the caregiver left, so I was on
the clock.
till the caregivers arrived the next morning, so I could go back to work. So there, like with him being so active at night, there was no recharge. Like sitting on the couch, worship music. Yeah, that's about it.
Wow. If you could go back and tell yourself something on day one, what would it be?
Be vulnerable, take advice, get involved in a support group, be kind to yourself. I think that would be, and then I would say a lot more, but
Yeah.
to start off.
To extend grace, right?
Yes, oh my goodness, yes.
What do you want other caregivers to know?
Plan ahead, get a mentor. Get, like, for example, financial, protect your assets. Herb was scammed many times. He was taken advantage of.
Oh, no.
We lost thousands of dollars. Put a limit on the cards. In fact, I canceled Herb's credit cards, and I put a limit on his debit card because Herb gave his passcode to everybody. He was just being a nice guy, right?
Right.
Legal. Right away, as soon as we found out that he was cognitively impaired, before he even had the diagnosis, we went and got a power of attorney, redid our will, got a healthcare directive, and got a power of attorney that allowed me to sell the house. So it has to have homestead rights on it. Without that, I wouldn't have been able to sell my house in Kleefeld. And that would have put me in financial ruin, really, because I couldn't afford Rest Haven and to maintain the house at the same time. And just to, like, talk to other people and get advice, like, because every case is different. But I think if you look after the legal and the financial stuff, that already gets you on the good track. I used my power of attorney 35 times while he was alive. So without that power of attorney, that would have limited so much of what I was able to do. When Herb passed away, the amount of stuff I had to look after was minimal because of all the stuff I looked after when he went into the home already.
Right.
Like, canceling his phone was the worst nightmare. I don't know why that is the hardest to get them to do. So again, it's about looking after all those details when you can, when the person can still cognitively talk to the lawyer and agree to things. That was huge. Okay. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add? Yeah,
in hindsight, I didn't see my burnout till it was pretty serious. I did take stress leave when I set up self and family managed care, because that was like a full-time job to set that up, and everything that needed to be done had to be done during daytime hours. So it was nothing I could do weekends and evenings. But then when Herb went into the home, the burnout and the exhaustion, because I would work full time and then go and spend 3.5, 4 hours with him every day, and then go home and deal with everything at home. I wish someone would have taken me aside and convinced me to take a leave of absence from work to focus on my mental health after he went to the home. I was so focused on him and so emotionally invested, I didn't see how it was affecting me physically. And I think maybe I would be like I would have been able to cope or better if I would have done that, because thankfully, I turned 65 a year later, and through the advice of my son, who's a financial planner, I was able to retire, and then I got to spend, like every day I was with Herb unless I was traveling. So that was a blessing with retiring when I did, but I should have, I think that was the biggest thing. And maybe that's why you need that support group and your friends and family really, really like know what's happening with you. Because I was like, the frog in the pot of boiling water that by the time I realized how serious it was, I couldn't even get myself out of the pot.
Okay.
Right? So yeah, maybe that's a shout out to people who have caregivers in their life to just, everybody's so focused on the person that's sick that they forget to look at what's happening to the caregiver. And the statistics on caregivers who pass away before their loved ones is staggering.
Really?
It is, yes. That's why I'm such an advocate for caregivers, because I just, Herb would always say, whatever you go through isn't just for you, it's for the people around you. And when the first time the Carillon approached us about doing an article, Herb's like, hey, if our story can help someone else, get our story out there. So I have his blessing to do this, right? And I honor him by doing this. And honor him by living well, I think, right? Like, my boys always say, Dad wouldn't want you to be moping around, Mom. So, yeah. That's pretty much it, I guess.
That's amazing. Where can people find you?
Well, I have a Facebook page called Our Journey with Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And then I'm on Instagram as well.
Okay.
And I'm not sure I want to give out my phone number,
No. No, this is great. This is a good way for people to connect, right? So, and that's where you write or talk about.
Yeah. Our Journey with Alzheimer's. It's it's a good place to start, because then they can read a little bit and go back and look at history. And I'm an open book. Like I love meeting up with people. So like if they're within like driving distance, and now with Zoom and everything else, there's so many ways to connect with people.
Yes.
And I feel passionate about doing that, so I'm accessible.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much, Linda, for being on. I appreciate it. I feel so honored. Like your story, it's inspiring. It's I don't know.
I feel honored that I got asked.
Well, and this is what I want to do. Like this is I wanted to do some. I want to make a difference. I want to do something in this world, and putting people's stories out there. I love it, and I appreciate it very much that you did this.
Well, your questions were amazing. So
thank you. I appreciate that.